In today's world, it's easy to become dependent on external approval. Whether it's praise from our boss, compliments from friends, or social media validation, we often find ourselves chasing approval. On the flip side, we may also run from criticism or disapproval, fearing judgment or rejection. But both praise and criticism keep us trapped in a cycle of dependence on the opinions of others. How can we detach from both praise and criticism and find true self-worth that doesn't rely on external validation? Epictetus offers a powerful Stoic insight. If you are ever tempted to look for approval outside yourself, know you have compromised your integrity. This quote speaks to the Stoic belief in independence from external opinions. Stoicism teaches us that our true value and integrity come from within, not from how others approve or disapprove of us. In this video, we'll explore how Stoic principles can help us break free from the need for external validation and build self-reliance and inner strength. Epictetus offers a powerful reminder. If you are ever tempted to look for approval outside yourself, know you have compromised your integrity. This Stoic insight challenges the common habit of seeking external validation. According to Epictetus, looking for approval from others is not only a form of dependency, but it also compromises our integrity. When we rely on the opinions of others to define our worth, we lose sight of our true values and become vulnerable to the fluctuating opinions of the world around us. Stoicism teaches us that true integrity comes from within, from aligning our actions with our own virtues, not the approval or disapproval of others. Epictetus's thought: if you are ever tempted to look for approval outside yourself, know you have compromised your integrity, strikes at the heart of a major challenge in today's world. The need for external validation. Whether it's praise from others or fear of criticism, we often base our self-worth on how others perceive us. In a society that thrives on likes, followers, and instant feedback, it's easy to become dependent on others' opinions for a sense of self-worth. However, Stoicism teaches us that true self-worth comes from inside, not from the ever-changing opinions of others. By focusing on our own values, virtue, and integrity, we free ourselves from the need to constantly seek approval or avoid criticism. The Stoics understood that inner peace and personal strength come from detaching from external judgments and living a life guided by our own principles. The trap of external approval and criticism in today's culture, seeking approval, has become almost second nature. We constantly look for validation from others, whether it is in the form of praise for our work, compliments on our appearance, or recognition for our achievements. Similarly, we also tend to shy away from criticism, fearing rejection or judgment. While approval feels good and criticism feels bad, both keep us dependent on external forces for our emotional stability. We begin to lose sight of our own sense of value and act based on what others expect from us, not what we truly believe in. The problem is that this dependence on external feedback is a fragile foundation for happiness and peace. Praise is fleeting and criticism can be harsh, but neither defines our worth. Stoicism teaches that our inner peace is rooted in our ability to be self-reliant, to define our own values, purpose, and actions, independent of others' approval or disapproval. Stoic practices for detaching from praise and criticism. Recognize the power of your own judgment. The first step in detaching from external validation is recognizing that our value comes from within. Instead of measuring our worth based on what others think, we can turn inward and align our actions with our own principles. Self-reflection is a powerful Stoic tool that allows us to evaluate our behavior based on our values, not the opinions of others. By focusing on living according to our virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, we regain control over our self-worth. Embrace the freedom of self-acceptance, Self-acceptance is key to Stoic philosophy. When we learn to accept ourselves for who we truly are, without the need for external validation, we free ourselves from the emotional roller coaster of praise and criticism. Stoicism teaches us to focus on our own growth and improvement, knowing that our worth is not dependent on others' opinions. By embracing who we are and acting in line with our values, we cultivate true self-confidence. View praise and criticism as feedback. Instead of attaching our self-worth to praise or criticism, we can choose to view both as feedback, information that helps us grow. Praise can encourage us to continue in the right direction, but we don't need to cling to it. Criticism, on the other hand, can be a chance for self-reflection and improvement, but it doesn't define us. Stoicism teaches us to learn from both praise and criticism without letting either sway our inner peace or sense of self. Practice emotional detachment. One of the central Stoic practices is emotional detachment. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions, but rather observing our emotions without letting them control us. When we receive praise, we can acknowledge it with gratitude, but not cling to it. Similarly, when we receive criticism, we can acknowledge it and use it to improve, but we don't let it affect our self-worth. By practicing emotional detachment, we remain grounded and resilient in the face of both external praise and disapproval. Focus on what you can control. Another key Stoic practice is the dichotomy of control, understanding that we cannot control how others think of us, but we can control our actions, thoughts, and reactions. By focusing on what is within our control, how we act, how we respond to feedback, and how we live according to our values, we detach from the need for external validation. This empowers us to live authentically and with purpose, independent of the opinions of others. The freedom of inner independence. The true freedom Stoicism offers is the ability to detach from external opinions and live in alignment with our own principles. By focusing on our values, virtue, and self-reflection, we free ourselves from the emotional dependence on praise and criticism. This inner independence allows us to live with true peace and self-confidence, knowing that our worth is determined by our actions, not by the judgments of others. Stoicism teaches us that inner peace is rooted in self-reliance and self-respect. When we detach from the need for external approval, we can focus on growing as individuals, becoming the best version of ourselves, and living with authenticity. In a world where external validation is often sought, from praise for our work to compliments on our appearance, or recognition for our achievements, we can easily find ourselves chasing approval and running from criticism. The pressure to measure up to others' expectations can feel overwhelming, leading to self-doubt, anxiety, and a constant need for validation. Similarly, when faced with criticism, we may feel attacked, defensive, or ashamed, making it difficult to respond with clarity and self-respect. The problem with this constant cycle of seeking praise and avoiding criticism is that it keeps us dependent on the opinions of others. We begin to define our worth by external factors instead of aligning our actions with our values and virtue. The more we depend on others' validation, the more we compromise our integrity and inner peace. Stoicism offers a path towards self-reliance, a way to detach from both praise and criticism and find true peace and self-worth within. Epictetus reminds us that if you are ever tempted to look for approval outside yourself, know you have compromised your integrity. This Stoic teaching challenges us to step away from the need for external validation and to turn inward for a true self-worth. Our value should not be defined by how others perceive us, but by our own actions, virtues, and internal growth. By practicing emotional independence, we learn to stay true to ourselves, no matter the praise or criticism we encounter. The cycle of praise and criticism in the modern world. The pursuit of approval is often an unconscious habit. We seek praise for the work we do, the appearance we present, and the lives we lead. In the age of social media, the need for external validation is amplified. Likes, comments, and followers provide us with instant feedback, which feeds into our self-worth and sense of identity. However, this constant dependence on external approval can lead to emotional instability. When the praise stops or the criticism comes, we can easily feel disconnected, unworthy, and lost. The Stoic solution is to detach from both praise and criticism. Stoicism teaches that we can't control how others think or judge us, but we can control our responses by focusing on our own virtue, integrity, and purpose. We free ourselves from the emotional roller coaster of seeking approval and avoiding criticism. Stoic practices for detaching from praise and criticism recognize the temporary nature of praise and criticism. Both praise and criticism are temporary and external. They come and go based on others' perceptions and are not a true reflection of our value. Stoicism teaches us to recognize that our self-worth is not dependent on the opinions of others. Instead of chasing praise or avoiding criticism, we focus on acting with integrity and aligning our actions with our values. This shift in focus helps us maintain inner peace and emotional stability, regardless of external feedback. Focus on your own actions and values. One of the central principles of Stoicism is to focus on what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and reactions. Rather than letting praise or criticism dictate our emotions, we shift our attention to how well we are living according to our values and virtue. By focusing on our own journey and self-improvement, we stop seeking validation from others and start defining our own sense of worth based on our character and actions. Reframe external opinions as feedback. Rather than taking praise or criticism personally, Stoicism teaches us to view both as feedback. Praise can be a reflection of what we're doing well, but it's not something to cling to. Criticism, on the other hand, offers an opportunity to reflect, learn, and improve. When we view both praise and criticism as feedback, rather than as measures of our worth, we become less affected by them and more focused on our personal growth. Practice detachment from external approval. Stoicism encourages us to detach from the need for external approval. This doesn't mean rejecting feedback or becoming indifferent to others' opinions, but rather not letting them define us. When we stop seeking validation from others, we find true freedom, the freedom to live authentically, in accordance with our values, without being swayed by praise or criticism. We focus on what truly matters, living virtuously and maintaining our integrity. Engage in self-reflection. One of the most powerful Stoic practices is self-reflection. At the end of each day, the Stoics would reflect on their actions and thoughts, asking themselves if they had lived in alignment with their values. This practice of self-examination helps us detach from the need for external validation and instead focus on internal growth. By regularly evaluating our actions and mindset, we can build a life grounded in virtue and authenticity, rather than chasing praise or avoiding criticism. The strength of inner independence, the true freedom that Stoicism offers, is the ability to live independently of external opinions. When we detach from both praise and criticism, we find inner peace and authentic self-worth. Stoicism teaches us that our value is not defined by how others perceive us, but by how we live in accordance with our values and virtue. By focusing on self-reflection, self-awareness, and personal growth, we cultivate emotional independence. Free from the emotional roller coaster of external validation, Stoicism empowers us to stay true to ourselves, act with integrity, And find peace in knowing that our worth is determined by our own actions, not by others' praise or criticism. As we conclude today's reflection on detaching from praise as much as criticism, remember that true inner peace and self-worth are found in our own actions and values, not in the opinions of others. Epictetus reminds us, if you are ever tempted to look for approval outside yourself, know you have compromised your integrity by shifting our focus from external validation to internal growth. We free ourselves from the emotional toll of seeking praise or avoiding criticism. Stoicism teaches us that self-reliance and integrity are the foundation of inner peace. When we start measuring our worth by the approval of others, we can live authentically and act with purpose, instead of chasing approval or shrinking from criticism. We focus on living in accordance with our virtues and personal growth, knowing that true success is about alignment with our values, not external validation. So, the next time you feel the need for approval or fear criticism, remember that your worth is determined by your actions, your principles, and your character. Live with integrity. Embrace your authentic self, and find peace in knowing that your value comes from within. Thank you for joining us today. If this video resonated with you, subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit from learning how to detach from external validation and live with authenticity and purpose together. Let's walk the Stoic path of self-reliance, inner peace, and meaningful living.